Hello everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster, and we are going to be playing Silmarillion Total War today. I've got a 1 versus 1 for you on the TUMHALAD map. We're going to be matching up the Haladin against the Falathrim, who do a lot of fighting in formation. We're going to try and pull some ambush shenanigans on them, see if we can't weaken their formations sufficiently that our Haladin warriors can take the day in close quarters. And so, let's take a look at my army composition here. I've got 2 units of the Haladin Berserkers. Pretty interesting unit, multiple HP. They do have a passive shield value from the front to sort of imitate the a toughness score or the missile resistance, for example, from Warhammer Total War. They're also armor piercing and relentless. They have very high mass, so they will push into enemy formations, which serves them quite well with their 2 HP and their inability to be staggered. So they're always attacking, and they've got really juicy charge values, or rather, well, they have good charge values, but they also have really good melee base values. So they can do a lot of damage that way. It actually does kind of turn the traditional wisdom on its head about not attacking like pike walls and things like that from head on. The Haladin do offer you a means to take on phalanx units from the front. So that's kind of nice. I've only brought 2 of them today, however. I've also brought some Waltrider Wayne Riders. This is not a fully and properly textured unit, as you could probably see. That will be something that we fix in the future, and each one of these Waynes is going to be staffed by 3 or 4 of the Waltrider Dragoons. The Chariot itself is anti-cavalry. It's a little bit squishier, doesn't do super well against infantry, but you can pull it off against lighter troops, especially if you can manage to get some flanking or rear charges, but it does perform fairly well against cavalry. And of course, I've also got a bow attached to each one of these Waltrider Dragoons, so they can lay down a little bit of supporting fire, although it's not too substantial. I've also brought some proper Waltrider Dragoons, 2 units of them, 1 here. I've got 1 deployed over on the other side, but that will change. I've also brought 3 units of the Rigswear of Brethil, and this is kind of significant for me, because I wanted to prove that these 2 units rather, or rather at least take a look at these 2 units, because we had a lot of feedback about people not liking the way that they function. So we will be taking the Waltrider Wayne Riders. They're one of those 2 units, and the other one is the Rigswear of Brethil. Now, these are relentless units. They can really go gung-ho in close quarters, but they are quite fragile. That being said, they do obviously have a javelin that they can throw. Now, this is 8 damage, not armor-piercing javelin, so it's pretty good at disrupting enemy front lines, dealing with light infantry, flank attacks, enfilading fire, things like that. You can get a lot of usefulness out of the Rigswear. But today we're going to be deploying them in a big old block with our Swear-to-Brother for some very sticky, very potentially very strong lines with a lot of longevity, as all sword units within the Haladin have the relentless trait. Swear-to-Brother are also the heaviest unit. I've given them all upgrades, and 2 of them even have chevrons. So our center line is going to be quite meaty, actually. With the Rigswear, who are also lock morale to kind of add a little bit of numbers and a little bit of meat to the front. It's not going to be an easy thing to fight your way through lines of Swear-to-Brother and Rigswear. At least that's my fond hope. I've also brought 2 units of the Warda of Ethelbrandir, 2 units of dismounted Waltrider Dragoons for a little bit of extra support. And I think that's most of my army, actually. Oh yeah, I've got 2 units of the Warda. I don't know if I mentioned that. So not a ton of spearmen here, not expecting a lot of resistance on the cavalry front from the Falathrim, but I have brought in more than enough cavalry to overpower anything that they can take. So I'm going to try and establish cavalry superiority, launch some ambushes on the back of the Falathrim lines, and try and harass them to death. And then I've also got this big old block of very hard to get rid of relentless sword infantry, and 2 units of the Warda who hit like trucks, and of course they have an armor-piercing javelin, so they can do some decent damage in support as well. But that is going to be my army. Let's go ahead and see what our opponent is bringing to the battle today. Ah yes, of course, and as is tradition, I forget at least 1 unit during the initial army compositions. I've also brought 2 units of the Freiswehr of Brethil. They are a light archer that is shielded, so they have a little bit of longevity at range. However, they don't have a ton of ammunition, but of course they are hybrid spearmen, so they're quite useful for supporting your cavalry units. and kind of clapping back against enemy ranged units, soaking up some of their ammunition, which is of course going to be very useful because when you're playing as a Haladin, you don't have a ton of arrows to go around. You've got lots of thrown weapons, but not so many long-range projectiles. But in any case, let's go ahead and take a look at our enemy's army. Oh, words are hard today. We have the Elves of the Falas being played by Captain Gervais, who is one of our testers. He's brought, I think, at least two, maybe even 3 units of the Warriors of Eglarest. We're going to see another one over there. I thought I saw a 3rd one, but apparently I did not. We're also going to see a number of spearmen on the field, a couple units here of the Eglarest Marines. Also got some Foresters of Bethombar, lots of two-handed spearmen, as I assume that he's expecting me to go quite cavalry and mobility heavy. He's also brought some Irine Ephedun, which is a bodyguard tier unit, although I think he accidentally placed his general into one of these Foresters, which is something I certainly did not expect, so I won't be focusing on them too heavily with my mobility. Of course, I don't really want to do that anyway. His main line is composed of some light infantry here. We've got lots of Marines of Bethombar, who's non-armor piercing, but nonetheless reasonably damaging. Javelin is on par with the damage of our Rigswehr, so they'll trade pretty nicely with them. Also got a couple units here of the Nobles of Balar. Our Ulfadin will be able to do some serious damage to them if we can get them in and without getting them shredded by all of these nasty things that he has waiting for us. I got some more Marines of Bethombar over here. Probably 2 units of Arankir Lim in total. Yeah, we got another company of them deployed on the other end. We're going to see some Rangers of Bethombar, and I think another unit of Foresters that'll be deployed up there. And I think that's most of his hidden units. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and kickstart this battle. So, if you take a look at my deployment over here, I've got Wall-Strider Dragoons. They can hide anywhere, as can your Freiswehr. So I'm going to leave them here just for a little while as sort of a flanking force. One of the things I noticed right away is that he doesn't have a lot of bowmen. In fact, there are almost none visible. So that's something that I want to try and take advantage of. I noticed there's a lot of like missile units and like good targets and stuff in there. My ambition is going to be to take out or cripple the Warriors of Eglarest, as they're a big part of the Falathrim offensive lineup, and I won't really be able to do much damage to the Arankir Lim, even if I'm shooting them from the rear with that really high armor value that they have. In addition to, you can see we've got Freiswehr here, and they're going to be supporting my Wall-Strider Dragoons. Now, one thing I actually missed about the Falathrim comp is that they've got a unit of cavalry hiding up here. One unit of the Scouts of Eglarest, the medium melee cavalry, so that's not something I want to get involved with my chariots right away. I could probably launch some decent hit-and-run attacks on them. Just maybe kill off about half or so of the unit in a charge. Like the chariots here, they are elephants, and they do a lot of damage against cavalry. They've got a pretty sizable bonus of +6. But I don't want to get them bogged down necessarily, especially with a lot of potential Falathrim light infantry marauding around, so we're going to be a little bit cautious with our Wall-Striders. Now I see an opportunity here to shoot at the Warriors of Eglarest. That's what I'm going to try and go for here. I'm going to try and take this hill and skirt around them, get into their rear. We've got about 6 or so armor, and that matches up pretty nicely with my with the 6 damage arrows. But of course, you're going to see... Oh, we got actually 2 Rangers of Bethombar up here. I thought we had a unit of Spearmen as well. No, we definitely do. So there's 2 Rangers of Bethombar up here. And that's not something that I want to get my chariot shot by. Actually, in hindsight, what I might have been able to do if there wasn't this cavalry here, park my unit behind the hill, let them waste ammunition on indirect fire or firing into the hill. It's just a nice little thing that you can do to weaken your enemy's ammo reserves for basically no gain. Scouts of Eglarest are going to give chase here. I'm going to be firing into the front of them with our shield guy who's going to be fully active. So I'm not really going to do a whole lot of damage here, but we did reveal some enemy hidden units, so now we know kind of what he's got, but we still have, of course, have our hidden units tucked away quite nicely. And it seems like maybe he's expecting a little bit of an ambush, but I don't think he knows where to expect it from. Now we also have a little bit of a hidden weapon over here as well. We have the Ulfadin. So one of the Ulfadin is going to be on our front line. We've got this one here. My intention was to throw them, if I could, at the back of the Irine Ephedun, because that's where most Falathrim players tend to put their general, and I didn't realize he had accidentally put it into one of his Foresters. So I was going to use them as sort of an assassin, maybe take out his general if at all possible. But we'll see how that works out. And the Falathrim are going to slowly but surely move forward. I see an opportunity here to shoot at some of the foresters, and I definitely want to do that, try and weaken them a little bit, make them, my life a little bit easier. You can see I waited to the very last moment to start to pull my my chariots out. You saw most of those arrows landing harmlessly behind my chariots. Very close call though, some of them did manage to hit, but that is a good way to bait volleys as well. Try and use up some of your enemy's resources before they have a chance to make them effective. And that's something that I need to be cognizant of. A lot of missiles can be a bit of a problem for the Haladin. They are quite lightly armored, even though a lot of their units do have shields. Still, one of their big challenges is managing their low numbers, so we don't want to lose anything to low tier archers. Or rather, lower mid-tier archers, I should say. The elves don't really have low tiers in Silmarillion Total War. Saw an opportunity here to shoot at the unshielded side. Unfortunately, we didn't get lucky enough to take down any of the models. And they're going to, again, chase us. And as soon as I see him turn around, I'm going to start to turn around with my units. And then he turns around again, so I'm forced to retreat. Beat a hasty retreat out there, lest I get caught by the Scouts of Eglarest and shot to bits by those 2 units of Rangers of Thombar. Oh, we have some Mariners of Arendil in here as well. Well, the Falathrim are just coming out of the woodwork, aren't they? Yeah, balance of power definitely in favor of our enemy here, but we do have a few tricks up our sleeve. Seeing these guys moving forward and seeing that the Scouts Cavalry... Oh, we managed to kill off a couple of them there. But seeing that the Scouts Cavalry are just kind of just sitting here with their shields forward, I see an opportunity to lay down a little bit of enfilading fire into these forces of Thombar. And so our Weltrider chariots are going to be able to do that pretty well with impunity. Rangers of Thombar trying to clap back a little bit. But we're a little bit nonplussed by that. I don't know if I noticed a Ranger shooting at them or not, but eventually I will pull them out. I'm going to try and circle around back. Yeah, I think once I saw his cavalry on the move, that's when I was like, oh, nope, time to go. I'm going to pull my chariots out of there. And my main objective here really is to try and draw those cavalry into a fight with the Freiswehr. If I can do that, I can actually kill off quite a lot of them very, very quickly. But seeing an opportunity, I think I do bring them out a little bit earlier. Meanwhile, the rest of the Falathrim host moving forwards, inching forwards, and now I see an opportunity here. So I'm going to bring out my Weltrider Dragoons. I'm going to train them firmly at the back of these Warriors of Eglarest. Try and do a little bit of damage. Might be a little bit too far away. Oh yeah, we do manage to land a volley there. It is reasonably effective, taking down a few of those models. I'll follow that up with a second one here. We'll hopefully be able to drain them dry a little bit. Now I've brought out my Freiswehr. Seeing an opportunity here to deal with some of these foresters. I know they're going to be a problem for my mobility. So if I can weaken them enough that I can punch a hole in this screen that Rex has created, then that'll obviously be a really good thing for me. Scouts of Eglarest now have seen that I have cavalry in behind their lines. Managed to do an okay amount of damage to the Warriors of Eglarest, but nothing really major. We are eventually going to switch tack and then go after the Marines of Thombar with their lighter armor. We're going to be able to get a lot more arrows. Yeah, and you can see quite a lot of them drop from that, like 4 or 5 in a volley, which is nice for us. Now the Foresters of Thombar, tightening the noose, as it were. I'm going to pull back my my Freiswehr a little bit, have them skirmish with the Rangers of Thombar, but this does make for a somewhat of a unique opportunity. Rex is getting a little bit confident here with his archers. He does have good reason, of course. He's got the Foresters in the area, and he's got a unit of Rangers here to try and cover them and focus fire down. But I am going to see that, and we are going to take a bite out of these little Ranger units here. Yeah, still focusing down the rear of those Marines of Thombar, trying to do as much attrition damage as we possibly can. So far, so good. With about 4% killed on our enemy side to our 3. Yeah, and this is about, I think, what I'm going to see the opportunity. The Freiswehr are going to let loose a volley. Rex has begun to move his foresters and Bethombar a little bit too far, and now I'm going to see an opportunity, and we're just going to go for it. These are not really the right chariots for this kind of job, but if you watch, as we pull them out of there as well, they do attack as they go through, and you can see a lot of these units getting staggered, so even just pulling them through, you are doing a little bit of damage, so we will manage to kill off a decent amount of the Rangers of Bethombar there. And then we'll be in behind the enemy lines, and we're going to continue to pew-pew as we run away. A little bit of a chariot drive-by, a Haladin drive-by. They came to our hood, and now we're going to make them pay for it. Friceware is still here. There's not really a lot that he can do with this right now, so we're just going to continue to pepper away at the back of these Marines and try to weaken them as much as we can. We have actually also gotten a little bit lucky, taking down 2 or 3 of the Iran-Kirlim, but they are quite a low model unit, so every loss is quite dearly felt when it comes to the Iran-Kirlim. We've got Mariners of Rendil here, the Legendary Company, Rangers of Bethombar. We're going to let loose against them, try and weaken them as much as we can. But seeing the infantry moving in now, it's going to be down to us to pull back and to defend our left wing. Luckily, we have some Ulfadin in reserve, and they haven't taken any of the Falathrim missile damage yet. Darawarda, pretty good armor and things like that, so they will be able to take those arrows on the chin. And now my hidden Rigswear. I'm going to start to open up a little bit. Hopefully they go after the Marines here. That's what I would hope they're going after, but I did kind of leave them on auto fire. Oh yeah, there you go. Yes, the Falathrim here. That takes quite a substantial amount of early casualties. These ones not going to do so much there. Probably should have targeted them on the Marines of Bethombar, but things happen pretty quickly, and it is pretty difficult to control a lot of missile units all at once. But unfortunately, I'm not going to seize the initiative here right away, which I should have done. So the Marines of Bethombar are going to have the opportunity to clap back a little bit. And if we look over here, actually, I decided now is a decent time to throw my Welsh Rider Dragoons in there against the Scouts of Eglarest. They're going to do a decent amount of damage there. I do try to pull them out so that I can cycle charge, but their mass isn't particularly high. That being said, you can see them really shredding these Scouts of Eglarest, but it will start to turn around pretty quickly as these chariots rely more on their mobility rather than their prowess in melee in order to survive. Now, I also made a little bit of a critical error over here. While all this was going down, I didn't bring out my Ulfadin. I was worried when I deployed them here. I'm like, I might forget them if they're not in a control group. Turns out I forgot them, so they're lagging a little bit behind. I very boldly brought my Friceware forward to continue peppering the rear of these units, and now you can see my troops starting to take the initiative here. Darawarda getting peppered down, unfortunately, by a lot of those Marines of Eglarest. That's not the one that my general is in. My general is hanging out over here. And the Iran-Kirlim right there. Ooh, and he's also getting peppered pretty badly too, so this is a little bit of a micro mistake. I was busy elsewhere. I threw my Ulfadin here against the Foresters and against the Mariners. There's some missile support coming in, but nonetheless, you can see the power of the Berserkers on display as they shred their way through the Legendary Company and some supporting Foresters of Bethombar. Now, my Wayne Riders unfortunately getting beat up pretty badly here, but we did manage to kill off well over half of the Scouts of Eglarest, and that's largely due to just kind of not microing them properly. We do have some problems here for our cavalry. Rex does have a big old screen here, but there is an opening, and that's something that when looking back, I should have taken one of these units and just taken advantage of that opening. Been a little bit more decisive with my cavalry, but I really wanted to get in here and try and support my flagging lines, because I can see that we're losing to the Iran-Kirlim right here. I have some Rigswear Breathel just hanging out in reserve, but I really should throw them in there just to try and delay for a little bit longer. Meanwhile, over here, so these Rangers of Bethombar might be running out of ammo a little bit. No, not quite. Did manage to pull back my Friceware into a good position. We're going to lay down some fairly devastating volleys into these Rangers. We'll be able to do a lot against them. Got my Welsh Rider Wayne chariots coming in for a rear charge against the Rangers, and we will manage to do a decent amount of damage to them. Meanwhile, my Ulfadin have managed to clear out most of the Mariners of Rendil and the Foresters of Bethombar, and we are well on our way to extirpating this unit and throwing them against the Rangers here, clearing them out, or we have another opportunity to potentially throw them at the rear of the Iran-Kirlim, and that would certainly wipe that unit out in fairly short order. Over here, these guys getting charged down. Unfortunately, I didn't have the presence of mind to issue an attack command to them. It happens sometimes. A little bit of an opportunistic rear charge here against the Warriors of Eglarest. Managed to do a decent amount of damage, but I left them in a little bit too long. And my well-trained Dragoons did pay the price for that. Ulfadin finally arriving on scene, and I've got some Friceware in support of them as well. Meanwhile, my well-trained Dragoons, I was attacking the Scouts of Eglarest in a fight that I was pretty sure I was going to win, but unfortunately I didn't see them make a hard retreat back towards the Foresters of Thombar. So I am able to pull that unit out of there before they get a little bit too beat up. At least I thought I was able to do that. But unfortunately, well-trained Dragoons, enough of them got attacked and then they ended up turning around. Hopefully we'll manage to pull them out of there, because our cavalry is really going to be like our win condition, essentially. So my block of swordsmen holding on reasonably well, although it's a little bit difficult for them to take down the nobles of Balar in close quarters. Especially from the front like that. Not an easy task at all.
Our general lies slain upon the battlefield.
And there, unfortunately, I ended up losing my general to the Arankir-Lim. However, the Haladin are pretty resilient, and they're actually starting to take this fight back from the Arankir-Lim, so that's a pretty big deal. So, managed to get my well-trained Dragoons out of there. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying enough attention to them, and they got attacked from behind by the Scouts of Eglarest. But I think I'll either try to retreat them a second time, or I'll just let them attack the Scouts and use their superior numbers to bring them down. Meanwhile, over here, my Ulfadin probably could have spread them out a little bit better, but they are going to charge into the Warriors of Eglarest, and me seeing some opportunities here for my cavalry to get a little bit of work done, I'm going to engage them and start doing stuff. Over here, my Friceware, just recently out of ammunition. I think they used the last of it on the Foresters of Thombar there. Yeah, I do pull back my well-trained Dragoons. I was really disappointed in myself for not microing my cavalry very well. I had a couple of losses this evening, basically on the back of I built mobility comps and I didn't use my mobility as well as I could have, and I do end up paying for it a little bit later. But my well-trainers are going to turn around now, go toe-to-toe with the Scouts, and these guys will basically eliminate each other. But still, nonetheless, you got to hand it to Rex. He was very relentless with the Scouts, and I didn't micro them properly. This is a full unit, basically, that's been reduced down to 15, so that's a really big problem on my end.
We've lost
got a little bit of a flank charge here into the Warriors of Eglarest, hoping that the just brute strength of the Ulfadin plus their fear will be enough to rout these guys off in fairly short order, although, of course, the Outer Rhine Effadoon are nearby, and they do have a very substantial morale buff. Now, here, basically, I'm just trying to bait things. I wanted to make it look like I was going for the Marines of Eglarest so that Rex would turn around, and then I surprised him by suddenly changing direction there, and we basically shredded that unit of Marines. And now we're going to take this opportunity to charge into the back of the Marines of Eglarest. Unfortunately, that charge ends up being a little bit anemic for reasons known only to the Medieval 2 engine, so we weren't able to do the damage that we needed there. If we had a good charge, might have flattened that unit. We are still very, very close to routing them off. We will be able to kind of make it out of this encirclement. As you can see, the forces of Thombar are now being brought to bear. But we did free up our Ulfadin there to do a decent amount of damage, and now we've basically defeated that unit of Warriors of Eglarest. And so, I'm going to pull my Friceware, prevent my Ulfadin from being surrounded completely. I'm going to toss them into the fray against the Foresters of Thombar. Friceware should do reasonably well there. And now that's going to free up my well-trained Dragoons, my one unit remaining of them. I guess I do still have another one, but they're basically just like fighting each other to the death over here, which is unfortunate. Would have been nicer to have 2 full units, because it makes feinting a lot easier. I saw the nobles of Balar were on the verge of routing, but I figured he would turn around at the last minute, and even turning around does allow me to kind of retake the initiative there. So I saw another opportunity. I'm going to go for the Marines of Eglarest. Getting pretty good, I think, at baiting people. A lot of experienced players will turn around when they see you going for a charge, so you can, especially with quick cavalry, like the well-trained Dragoons or Outriders with the Wheelwind and things like that. You can change direction pretty swiftly and then do some stuff like this, and then kind of catch them off guard. Yeah, so that's a pretty nasty charge there into those Marines of Eglarest. Those are spearmen. We would not have been able to do that otherwise if we had charged into the front of them. So that's sort of the big deal. Over here, there's been a bit of a breakthrough by Darawarda backed up by my Friceware, putting up a really good resistance here, even with the loss of their general. Some warriors of Eglares, that's been the reinforcements for the Falathrim have now moved in, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to hold that for too much longer, but here I think we managed to catch him off guard yet again, and we get so close so many times to routing these units. You can see them drop down there, and if we had like another Ulfadin or something, we would be doing extremely well. But instead I opted to bring a couple of the dismounted Wall-Trader Dragoons for the extra support, which in hindsight probably not the greatest idea. But we are going to get a nice charge over here, which is going to break some of these units. We are going to carry that through into the Warriors of Eglares. That's going to do a decent amount of damage to them. Well, it does okay. It takes down like 3 or 4 units. We're going to immediately pull Wall-Trader Dragoons out of that, but they are taking a lot of damage. And just imagine what we could be doing if we didn't lose the second unit. That was just such a huge mistake, the way that we ended up losing them. But nonetheless, we are making do with what we have. And you can see the tide of battle beginning to turn here. And I'm thinking about trying to make it look like I'm going for the Foresters. And then trying to turn around here, but Rex, I think, was a little bit... He was on to me for sure, and he's going to get a chance to turn around. Nonetheless, it is going to pin them against Swear-to-Brother. There's been a little bit of a breakthrough over here, but we held very nicely against the Iran-Kirlin. These rigs are still here, backed up with Dawarwarda. I think if we had been a little bit more on top of our micro, we would definitely be doing a lot better in the safety fight than we currently are. But nonetheless, even on the back foot, the Iran-Kirlin suffered heavily in order to get through here, but Rex is now going to go for a full surround. At least it's just Iran, Efadun, nothing like seriously damaging, so my Swear-to-Brother will be able to hold on for quite some time. But my attention right here is really... I just want to break some stuff, right? I just want to break a few of these units and free up my troops to turn around and take these guys head on instead of suffering the surround. Unfortunately over here the Dawarwarda have suffered very heavily indeed. We have managed to take a toll from the Haladin, and it is unfortunately not enough. Over here, some of my units were victorious in repulsing the Falathrim, and they've now got a little bit farther than I think they need to. We've got some Ulfadin out here, just kind of chilling, getting shot in the rear. Not a good thing. I probably should be doing something with them, but I know that I will shortly. Meanwhile, over here, we've pretty handily repulsed the Falathrim, but things are looking really dire for us. We've got a heavy amount of reinforcements coming in over here, and I'm just desperately trying to break some units, free up resources, and it's just really not going my way here. Swear-to-Brother doing their best. They are quite tired. Nonetheless, they're a very resilient unit, and there's multiple units still here, so they will be buffing each other's morale by +2. And then I thought I'd try and do something a little bit unexpected and like rear charge these guys, but I think Rex ends up seeing it at the last moment, so I'm going to pull out. Yeah, we're going to be able to bait that, and that's going to help the Ulfadin a lot, actually. You see the balance bar begin to swing from losing to evenly matched. Now those Foresters are not having a good time. Over here, we're still kind of holding on. That's 32 Swear-to-Brother, doing their best against Nobles of Baelor, but it's really hard to deal with those things when all we really have is as damaging striking units are the Wall-Trader Dragoons still remaining. Meanwhile, over here, Dawarwarda have actually managed to kind of take back the fight in Iran-Kirlin, fighting valiantly, but nonetheless overmatched. I saw an opportunity to charge into the flank of these guys. They were already at wavering, and I thought, maybe if we get a good charge, we'll be able to rout them off, but I think we only managed to kill off 1 or 2 of them, which is unfortunate. There are some warriors of Eglares over here that I want to get a nice piece of. Oh yeah, and then I saw these guys getting pulled out here. I thought maybe I had a chance to rout them, but unfortunately there are more pressing concerns, so I'm not going to have an opportunity to follow that up. Because I really need to kill off as many of these Falathrim as I can. My Swear-to-Brother are holding on admirably, but they are kind of outmatched here a little bit. Especially with the 2 HP on the Orion Efadun. Not a super damaging unit, but they do hold on real nice. That being said, got some Ulfadin here. Charging into the rear. That's going to hurt. I see a number of them fall. On And then I noticed that there's Rangers over there that are lending some support. So I have some Square Brother behind the lines. They're going to take care of this unit of Rangers. And I think I might still have a Chariot. No, actually, I just have one Wall-Strider Dragoon who managed to come out of this debacle over here. So he's going to charge in to the support of the Square Brother. We'll be able to kill off these units pretty quickly. Rangers don't have the greatest morale, and they're really quite separated from the rest of their comrades. And so, we're going to try desperately here to get work done, basically, with the Wall-Traders, and I'm not really sure what to do with them at this point, so I'm going to try to do something unexpected. Go for a nice charge here against the Foresters, try and free up my Ulfadin, but it's actually going to cost me over half of my remaining cavalry, so it really does suck. And I think Rex is just going to like hard reform these guys, pull them out, so he's going to basically do what I wanted to do anyway. So I end up losing that cavalry basically for nothing. And over here, my Square Brother being overwhelmed quite swiftly. The Rhine Infantry now pushing their way through. They have suffered a decent amount of casualties, though. Got to hand it to the Haladin infantry. They have performed like heroes in this battle. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for their commander. Oh no, and then my cavalry gets caught there by the Foresters. And thinking that his general is in the Rhine Infantry,
The defeat seems almost certain.
I'm gonna try and go for them. And if I can kill his general, maybe I can pull this out. But unfortunately, my Square Brother now routing. Got one unit of Wall-Striders left. I've still got, I think, I don't know, he ended up getting lost there. But I've got a small unit of Square Brother who have hacked their way through one unit of Rangers of Bathombar, and they are currently in the process of doing the same to another. But alas, there's just too many of the heavily armored Falathrim units still left on the field, and my Ulfadin are swiftly being overwhelmed. So these spear units over here managed to hold for a long time. We inflicted devastating losses on them, of course. There's like 300 dead elves over here with 2 of my units of Ulfadin. I think if I had spread them out a little bit better, we might have been able to kill them off faster, but again, this is a really micro-intensive battle. There's a lot of like spears and stuff, and I had to be very careful with my cavalry, and obviously I didn't do a very good job of that. So I think this was ultimately a winning fight. Like I think we could have definitely beaten Rex here, but unfortunately we didn't use our other cavalry unit very well, and that proved to be like an indispensable resource that we just desperately needed. And then we ended up not having it due to mismanagement. So that's a little bit disappointing. It's really frustrating. Get frustrated with yourself when you do those sorts of things, but oh well. Nonetheless, we did our best. It's still a really close game, 94 to 91. I mean, I would say we did our best. I think we could have done a hell of a lot better, and I think again that this was very much a winning fight. But you know, we mismanaged a critical asset, and yeah, we're paying the price for it now. That and maybe bringing the Ulfadin out a little bit further, a little bit sooner, and like widening their formation instead of throwing them in a big block like that, then I think that would have gone a really long way. And potentially also composition issues that saw us defeated here. If we'd have dropped the Wall-Strider Dragoons and just went for a second unit of Ulfadin, because we definitely could have afforded it if we didn't take the 2 Wall-Strider Dragoons.
Not be so lucky next time.
Then that, I think, would have helped us carry the melee, because there's a lot of heavily armored units in here, and the Ulfadin would have just burned through them like a hot knife through butter. With that support on the front lines, we weren't really able to bring our Ulfadin to bear, and that was kind of like my plan, as I wanted to use them on my front line. But there was just so many infantry that we ended up needing to use them elsewhere. And they did well. Like if we look at our kills here, our Ulfadin didn't underperform by any means. One of them got 185, the other one got 301, but this unit could have done a hell of a lot better in a more critical spot on the line fight, which I think would have been more useful than shredding, you know, a bunch of light infantry on the wings. Like, yeah, we managed to kill off the Legendary Company, which was great for us, but the Haladin have more. That was really more of a distraction, right? The Legendary Company is good for buffing morale, but the Haladin had a whole bunch of morale buffing units here. I would have rather used them against like Aron Kirlim, for example, because they would have just butchered them. That would have been a bigger deal, because then would have, you know, freed up our Dower Warda. We could have just distracted those units over there, or used the Freyswear and the Dower Warda in tandem, and then basically accomplish the same thing, but end up killing off more important units more quickly. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement here, but I think ultimately we did alright with a fairly unconventional composition. And coming back to the Rigswear and the Walsh Rider Wainrider debate, they did really well here. 132 kills or so on a unit that most people were telling me was unusable. I think is pretty good. Rigswear Brethil did really well against the light Falathrim. They like shredded a whole bunch of their units. I again needed to like take the initiative more, and like I gotta work on my micro obviously, and that would have been like a much bigger deal. Like we could have, you know, smashed into the front line instead of like taking it on the chin from the Marines of Berthalon Bar and losing some of our Rigswear numbers. So we didn't manage our numbers very well. There was an important asset on our mobility and some composition issues, but nonetheless we did perform really, really well for using units that people, you know, were kind of complaining that were off meta and just not very useful. So yeah, good game to my opponents. Rex definitely kept me on my toes in this one. And hopefully next time we can come up with a win. In any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.